Now let's begin. The autumn rain hammered against the workshop windows as Jack Flynn ran his hand along the carbon fiber composite, checking for imperfections in the material that would become high-performance athletic equipment. He'd built this business from nothing, Flynn Performance Gear, after leaving his career as a mechanical engineer. What started in his garage 7 years ago now supplied equipment to college teams and aspiring professional athletes across 3 states. His phone buzzed. Brandon's name lit up the screen. Jack smiled. His son was at school, probably texting between classes. But when he opened the message, his blood went cold. "Dad, I need help. It's bad." Jack immediately called. Brandon answered on the first ring, his voice tight with controlled panic. "What happened?" "It's Grandma Beatrice." Brandon's words came fast. "I got home from practice early because Coach let us go to rest before Saturday's championship. She was in my room. Dad, she destroyed everything. My jersey, my cleats, my backup uniform. Cut them into pieces with scissors. She left a note." Jack's jaw clenched. "What did it say?" "Losers don't deserve uniforms." "Dad, the championship is in 2 days. I can't play without." "Brandon, stop. Listen to me carefully. Is she still there?" "No, she left right before I got home. Mom's car is gone too." Jack's late wife Nora had died 3 years ago in a car accident, leaving him to raise 13-year-old Brandon alone. What Nora had also left behind was her mother, Beatrice Head, a woman whose toxicity had poisoned their marriage and now threatened to destroy his son. "Did you take pictures?" Jack asked. "Yeah, of everything. The torn uniform, the note, all of it." "Good. Send them to me. Don't touch anything else. I'm coming home." Jack locked up the workshop and drove through the rain, his mind racing. This wasn't the first incident. Not even close. But it was the most blatant, the most cruel. Brandon had worked for 3 years to make the starting lineup for the county all-star team. This championship game was against the state champions from the Northern District. Scouts would be there, reporters, everyone who mattered in youth athletics. Brandon had earned this moment. Beatrice knew that. That's exactly why she'd done it. When Jack walked into Brandon's room 40 minutes later, the destruction was worse than he'd imagined. His son's royal blue jersey, the one with Flynn 7 printed on the back, lay in ribbons across the bed. The cleats, custom-fitted and broken in over months of practice, had been slashed beyond repair. Even Brandon's compression gear and practice clothes were shredded. Brandon sat at his desk, shoulders hunched, staring at his phone. He looked up when Jack entered, and Jack saw the tears his son had been trying to hide. "Dad, I don't understand. Why does she hate me so much?" Jack pulled up a chair and sat across from his son. This conversation was 3 years overdue. "Your grandmother doesn't hate you. She hates me. You're just the weapon she uses." "But why?" Jack took a breath. "When I met your mom, we fell in love fast. Maybe too fast. Your grandmother wanted Nora to marry someone else, Bernard Burgess, a lawyer from their church. Rich family, old money, everything Beatrice valued. But your mom chose me, a scholarship kid with grease under his fingernails and big dreams." Brandon listened intently. "Beatrice never forgave me for that. She saw me as beneath your mother, beneath her family. When you were born, she tried to take over, wanted to name you, wanted us to move into her house, wanted to control every decision. Your mom and I set boundaries. Beatrice didn't like boundaries. And after Mom died," Jack's voice hardened. "After Mom died, Beatrice saw an opportunity. She thought she could push me out, take custody of you, mold you into what she wanted. But your mom's will was ironclad. I'm your father. You're my son. That killed her. So she hurts me to hurt you. Every chance she gets." Jack stood and walked to the window. "She undermines you, criticizes everything you do, tells you you're not good enough. Classic psychological abuse. I've documented every incident for 3 years, Brandon. Every cruel comment, every accident, every time she's shown up uninvited to cause problems. Why didn't you stop her? Get a restraining order or something?" "Because I needed her to go far enough." Jack turned back to his son. "I needed undeniable evidence. And now I have it. Brandon, do you trust me?" "Always." "Then show up to that championship game on Saturday. And whatever you have, trust me, you'll have everything you need." Brandon looked at the destroyed uniform, then back at his father. Something in Jack's eyes, a cold certainty, a plan already in motion, made him nod. "Okay, Dad. I trust you." Jack left Brandon's room and walked down to the basement, to the locked office where he kept his important files. He pulled out a thick folder labeled Beatrice Head Documentation and added the new photos Brandon had sent. The folder was now 3 inches thick with evidence, photos, text messages, emails, and witness statements. 3 years of ammunition. He made a phone call. "Rich, it's Jack. I need to activate the plan. This weekend." Rich Sparks, his business partner and former college roommate, whistled low. "She finally went nuclear, huh? Destroyed Brandon's championship uniform 2 days before the game. Left a note calling him a loser. Jesus, that woman really is psychotic. Can you get everything ready by Saturday morning?" "Already on it, brother. I've been waiting for you to give me the green light. The gear is ready. I've been custom building it for months. The video is edited and ready. All I need is your final approval on the content. Send it over. I'll review it tonight." "Jack," Rich's voice turned serious. "You sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. Beatrice will be finished." Jack thought of his son's tear-stained face, the calculated cruelty of destroying a child's dreams just to hurt his father. "I'm counting on it." That night, after Brandon had gone to bed, Jack sat in his office and watched the video Rich had prepared. It was a 15-minute compilation, carefully edited and damning. Every incident over 3 years, time-stamped and documented. Beatrice accidentally spilling hot coffee on Brandon at his mother's funeral. Beatrice telling 8-year-old Brandon that his mother died because God was punishing Jack's sins. Beatrice showing up drunk to Brandon's birthday party and screaming that he was an ungrateful brat. Beatrice slashing the tires on Jack's truck in broad daylight, caught on a neighbor's security camera. Beatrice forging Jack's signature to withdraw Brandon from advanced classes. And that was just the first 5 minutes. The video also included statements from witnesses, teachers, coaches, neighbors, even Beatrice's own sister Elena Middleton, who'd been horrified by her behavior. It included psychological evaluations Jack had quietly commissioned, showing the damage Beatrice's abuse had inflicted on Brandon. It included bank records showing Beatrice had stolen from Nora's estate, money meant for Brandon's college fund. The final segment showed the destroyed uniform, Brandon's face as he discovered it, and Beatrice's handwritten note in her distinctive script. Jack felt no satisfaction watching it, only grim determination. This wasn't about revenge, it was about protection, about making sure Beatrice could never hurt his son again. He approved the video and sent it back to Rich. "Perfect. Loaded on the thumb drive. Saturday morning, we execute." Then Jack made another call, this one to Gordon Solis, the attorney who'd handled Nora's estate. "Gordon, it's Jack Flynn. I need you at the championship game this Saturday. Bring the police contact we discussed. It's time." Finally, Gordon said, "I'll have Officer Sean Atwood there in plain clothes. He's been waiting for enough evidence to move forward." "Jack, after what you've shown me, I don't think you understand how much trouble she's in." "Good. She's had 3 years to stop. She chose escalation instead. What about Brandon? He's going to see all of this. Brandon deserves to know the truth. He deserves to see his father protect him. And he deserves to play in that championship without fear." After hanging up, Jack walked to Brandon's room and quietly opened the door. His son was asleep, one arm thrown over his head, his face finally peaceful. Jack remembered holding him as an infant, making silent promises to always keep him safe. Tomorrow, he'd keep those promises. The rain had stopped. Through Brandon's window, Jack could see stars emerging between the clouds. In 2 days, everything would change. Friday morning arrived with crisp autumn sunshine. Brandon came downstairs for breakfast, trying to hide his anxiety about the uniform situation. Jack made pancakes, their pre-game tradition since Brandon was 5 years old. "Dad, about tomorrow." "Everything's handled," Jack said, sliding a stack onto Brandon's plate. "You focus on the game plan. I've got the equipment covered." "But how? There's no way to get a proper uniform by tomorrow. Even if we ordered, it wouldn't." "Brandon." Jack sat down across from him. "Have I ever let you down?" "No." "Then eat your breakfast. Your only job today is rest, hydration, and visualization. Coach wants you sharp tomorrow." The doorbell rang. Brandon jumped, and Jack saw fear flash across his son's face. Fear that it might be Beatrice, here to inflict more damage. "Stay here," Jack said. He opened the door to find Claude Lancaster, Brandon's coach and a former semi-professional player who'd taken Brandon under his wing. Claude was a stocky man in his 50s with silver hair and kind eyes that turned hard when dealing with injustice. Jack, I heard what happened. The team knows too. Kids talk. I wanted to check on Brandon. Come in, coach. Brandon's in the kitchen. Claude walked in and found Brandon hunched over his pancakes. Flynn, look at me. Brandon met his coach's eyes. That woman, your grandmother, she doesn't get to decide if you're a winner or loser. You know what makes someone a winner? Showing up when everything's stacked against you. Fighting when it would be easier to quit. Can you do that? Yes, coach. Then I'll see you tomorrow. Full heart, full effort. Everything else is just noise. Claude turned to Jack. And Jack, if you need anything, witnesses, statements, support, the entire coaching staff is behind you. What she did crosses every line. After Claude left, Brandon looked at his father with new understanding. You've been planning something, haven't you? For a long time. Jack didn't deny it. I've been building a case. Making sure that when the time came, justice would be absolute. Tomorrow isn't just about you playing in a championship, son. It's about ending this, once and for all. What are you going to do? What I should have done years ago. I'm going to make sure she can never hurt you again. The rest of Friday passed in careful preparation. Jack went to his workshop and returned with a large equipment bag, which he locked in his truck. He made more calls, to Rich, to Gordon, to the stadium manager. Every piece was falling into place. That evening, Brandon's phone lit up with messages from teammates. Dude, we got your back tomorrow. Flynn, you're playing no matter what. Your grandma is psycho, everyone knows it. The support lifted Brandon's spirits, but Jack could see the underlying fear. His son was afraid Beatrice would find some way to ruin tomorrow too. Dad, what if she shows up at the game? What if she makes a scene? Jack's smile was cold. I'm counting on her showing up. In fact, I know she will. How? Because I sent her an invitation. Through her sister Elena. Told her the whole team is dedicating the game to Nora's memory, and as Nora's mother, she should be there. Elena said Beatrice practically gloated. She thinks she's already won by destroying your uniform. She wants to see you benched, humiliated. Brandon's eyes widened. You want her there? I want witnesses, Brandon. Lots of them. And I want her to feel safe, victorious, right up until the moment everything comes crashing down. That night, Jack barely slept. He reviewed the plan a dozen times, checking every detail. The custom uniform Rich had been building for months. Not just any uniform, but professional-grade equipment that would make Brandon look like he'd stepped off a college field. The video, loaded and ready to play on the stadium's Jumbotron during halftime. The police, ready to move. The lawyer, ready to file. Everything was ready. At 3 a.m., Jack got up and drove to the workshop. He opened the special storage locker and pulled out Brandon's new gear. The jersey was royal blue with silver trim, Flynn 7, embroidered in perfect stitching. The cleats were custom molded, using the advanced materials Jack's company specialized in. Lighter, stronger, better grip. There were compression sleeves with embedded support technology, a helmet with improved impact dispersion, gloves designed to enhance grip without bulk. This wasn't just a replacement uniform. This was a statement. Jack packed everything carefully and returned home just as dawn broke. Brandon was already awake, sitting in the kitchen with a glass of water. Couldn't sleep either? Jack asked. Too nervous. Dad, are you sure about all this? Brandon, I need you to understand something. What happens today is bigger than a football game. Today, you're going to learn that standing up to bullies, even when they're family, is not just okay, it's necessary. Your mom would want you to know that. She spent years trying to set boundaries with Beatrice, and it cost her so much stress and pain. I won't let that legacy continue with you. I miss Mom. I know. So do I. But she'd be so proud of you. Not because you're talented at football, but because you've survived 3 years of abuse and you're still kind, still hopeful, still fighting. That's real strength. They ate breakfast together in comfortable silence, then loaded up the truck. Jack placed the equipment bag in the bed, covering it with a tarp. Not yet, he said when Brandon tried to look. You'll see when we get to the stadium. The drive took 40 minutes. The county championship stadium was impressive, a 15,000-seat venue that hosted high school and youth playoffs. As they pulled into the parking lot, Jack could see it was already filling up. Banners hung everywhere. Northern District versus County All-Stars, State Youth Championship. Rich was waiting by the entrance, along with Gordon Solis. Both men shook Jack's hand with the solemnity of soldiers going into battle. "Everything's set," Rich said. "Stadium manager has the video loaded. It'll play at exactly 2:15 p.m. during halftime. Officer Atwood is already here, sitting in Section 12. "The uniform?" Brandon asked, unable to contain himself. Rich grinned. "Kid, you're about to look like a pro. Come on." They walked to the team locker room. Brandon's teammates were already there, going through pre-game warm-ups. When Brandon entered, the room went silent. "Flynn's here," someone shouted, and the team erupted in cheers. Coach Lancaster approached. "Brandon, you ready?" "Yes, coach." Dad said he had equipment covered. "Then suit up. Jack, you can use the coach's office." In the private office, Jack finally unzipped the equipment bag. Brandon's jaw dropped. The uniform was spectacular, far beyond anything the league provided. The jersey fit perfectly, the fabric wicking and breathing like high-performance athletic gear should. The cleats looked almost futuristic, sleek and aggressive. The additional equipment, compression gear, protective pads, gloves, all bore the Flynn Performance Gear logo discreetly embedded. "Dad, this is professional grade. It's what you deserve. It's what you've earned. Put it on." Brandon dressed slowly, reverently. When he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. He looked older, stronger, ready. "How do I look?" "Like a champion," Jack said. "Now go warm up. I have some things to handle before the game starts." Brandon hugged his father fiercely, then ran out to join his team. Jack heard the reaction. Whoops, cheers, teammates mobbing Brandon with excitement over his gear. Rich appeared in the doorway. "That kid is going to remember this moment for the rest of his life." "That's the point. Now is she here?" "Beatrice?" "Oh yeah. Front row, Section 8, wearing a red hat. She's with two friends, already talking trash about how Brandon won't even play. Elena Middleton is sitting several rows back, looking uncomfortable." "Perfect. Gordon, you have the documentation?" The lawyer patted his briefcase. 3 years' worth. Enough to bury her in both civil and criminal proceedings. Jack walked out to the concourse and spotted Beatrice immediately. She was a tall woman in her 60s, dressed expensively, her silver hair perfectly styled under the red hat. She was laughing with her friends, occasionally glancing at the field with obvious satisfaction. She didn't know he could see her. Didn't know the plan. Didn't know this would be her last day of freedom for a very long time. Jack took his seat in Section 10, close enough to watch her reaction, but far enough to avoid confrontation. The stadium continued filling. By game time, nearly 12,000 people had arrived. The announcer's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the State Youth Championship. Please rise for our national anthem." As the anthem played, Jack watched the teams line up on the sidelines. Brandon stood tall in his new uniform, helmet under his arm, back straight. He looked every inch the athlete he'd worked so hard to become. Then Jack's eyes slid to Beatrice. She was scanning the field, clearly looking for Brandon. When her gaze landed on him in his professional gear, her face went slack with shock. Then confusion. Then rage. She grabbed her friend's arm, pointing at Brandon, saying something Jack couldn't hear but could easily imagine. "How? I destroyed his uniform. He shouldn't be able to play." The anthem ended. Teams took the field. The game was about to begin. And Beatrice's head had no idea her entire world was about to implode. The first half was brutal. The Northern District champions were bigger, faster, more aggressive. They'd won their district by outscoring opponents an average of 42-14. Their defense was legendary. They'd only allowed 3 touchdowns all season. Brandon played safety on defense and wide receiver on offense. In the first quarter, he made 2 tackles but dropped a pass that would have been a first down. Jack could see his son's frustration, the mental weight of everything that had happened affecting his performance. At the end of the first quarter, the score was 14-0, Northern District. During the break, Jack watched Coach Lancaster pull Brandon aside, talking intensely. Whatever the coach said worked. Brandon's body language changed, his shoulders squaring, his jaw setting. The second quarter opened with County All-Stars receiving. Their quarterback, a kid named Wes Love with a cannon for an arm, dropped back and launched a deep pass down the right sideline. Brandon ran under it, leaping high, fingers extended. The ball dropped perfectly into his hands. He landed, spun away from one defender, stiff-armed another, and sprinted down the sideline. 43 yards. Touchdown. The stadium exploded. Jack was on his feet, shouting, pumping his fist. Brandon's teammates mobbed him in the end zone. From the corner of his eye, Jack saw Beatrice. She wasn't cheering. She was sitting rigid, arms crossed, face twisted in fury. Her friends looked uncomfortable, whispering to her, but she ignored them. The All-Stars' defense stiffened. They held Northern District to a field goal. Then, with 2 minutes left in the half, Wes Love hit Brandon again, this time on a crossing route. Brandon caught it at the 30, dodged 2 tackles, and took it to the 12-yard line before being brought down. 3 plays later, the All-Stars punched it in. Score, 17-14, Northern District, at halftime. As the teams headed to the locker rooms, the announcer's voice boomed. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special presentation during halftime. Please direct your attention to the Jumbotron. Jack felt his pulse quicken. This was it. Rich appeared beside him, phone in hand, ready to record. Gordon Solis was 3 rows behind, watching Beatrice intently. Officer Sean Atwood, in civilian clothes, had moved closer to Section 8. The Jumbotron flickered to life. The stadium's ambient noise faded as people looked up. The screen showed a title card, The Truth About Abuse, Brandon Flynn's Story. Jack watched Beatrice. She'd been talking to her friend, not paying attention. But at the sound of Brandon's name, her head snapped up. The video started with a photo of Brandon at age 10, smiling in his youth football uniform, standing next to Nora. The narrator, Jack's voice, calm and measured, began. 3 years ago, my wife Nora died in a car accident. She left behind our son Brandon, who was 10 years old. She also left behind her mother, Beatrice Head. What you're about to see is a documented record of abuse, manipulation, and cruelty spanning 3 years. I'm sharing this publicly because abuse thrives in darkness, and my son deserves to live in the light. The stadium had gone completely silent. 12,000 people watching. The first clip played, security camera footage from Jack's driveway, dated 8 months after Nora's death. Beatrice was slashing the tires on Jack's truck with a knife, her face clearly visible, twisted with rage. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The second clip, Beatrice at Brandon's birthday party, drunk, screaming at 11-year-old Brandon that he was worthless, that his mother had died of shame. Elena Middleton was in the frame, trying to pull Beatrice away, horror on her face. The third clip, Beatrice forging Jack's signature on school documents, caught on the school's security camera. The timestamp showed her withdrawing Brandon from advanced classes without authorization. Then came the witness statements. Teachers describing Beatrice showing up at school to berate Brandon in front of classmates. Neighbors recounting incidents of Beatrice verbally abusing the child in public. Coach Lancaster describing how Beatrice had tried to get Brandon kicked off the team by making false accusations against Jack. Elena Middleton appeared on screen, tears streaming down her face. My sister has a sickness. She's been cruel to Brandon because she wanted to hurt Jack for marrying Nora. I've tried to intervene, but she won't stop. That child deserves peace. The video showed the psychological evaluation. Brandon had developed anxiety, depression, and PTSD symptoms from the sustained abuse. Then came the financial records. Beatrice had embezzled over $47,000 from Nora's estate, money designated for Brandon's college fund. Finally, the video showed yesterday's destruction. Brandon's shredded uniform, laid out like evidence at a crime scene. The note in Beatrice's handwriting, "Losers don't deserve uniforms." And then Brandon's face, trying not to cry, saying to the camera, "I just want to play football. I just want my grandma to stop hurting me and my dad. We didn't do anything wrong. We just want peace." The video ended with a final title card. Abuse is not a family matter. It's a crime. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, speak up. Silence protects abusers, not victims. The Jumbotron went dark. For 3 seconds, the stadium was silent enough to hear the wind. Then the eruption. Not cheers, something deeper. Outrage. 12,000 people had just watched documented child abuse. Some were crying. Others were shouting. Parents were hugging their children. Jack's eyes never left Beatrice. She was standing, mouth open, face white as snow. Her friends had moved away from her, backing up as if she carried disease. People in the surrounding sections were pointing at her, shouting. A woman nearby was on her phone, clearly calling someone. Elena Middleton had covered her face with her hands, sobbing. Beatrice turned, wild-eyed, scanning the crowd. When her eyes locked on Jack's, he saw recognition. Understanding. She knew exactly who had done this. Jack stood and gave her a small nod. A promise. This is only the beginning. Officer Sean Atwood was moving through the crowd now, along with 2 other officers in uniform. They reached Section 8 just as Beatrice tried to flee. Beatrice's head? Atwood's voice carried in the sudden hush. I need you to come with me. This is a mistake. That video is lies. He manipulated. Ma'am, we have warrants for your arrest. Theft, forgery, destruction of property, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and child abuse. You have the right to remain silent. As the officers handcuffed her, Beatrice screamed. Not words, just incoherent rage and denial. People recorded on their phones. Parents shielded their children's eyes. The woman who terrorized Brandon for 3 years was being dragged out of the stadium in handcuffs, crying and shrieking. Jack felt Rich's hand on his shoulder. Brother, you did it. Gordon Solis appeared. Jack, the district attorney, is already calling me. After what was just shown to 12,000 witnesses and recorded on hundreds of phones, she's done. They'll throw every charge at her they can. The announcer's voice returned, shaky. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll resume the game in 5 minutes. Please hug your children today. Jack walked down to the fence separating the stands from the field. Brandon was standing there, helmet in hand, tears streaming down his face. Not tears of sadness, tears of release. Dad, it's over, son. She can't hurt you anymore. I love you, Dad. I love you too. Now go win this game. Brandon wiped his eyes, put on his helmet, and jogged back to his team. The other players gathered around him, a protective huddle. Then they broke, and Jack heard them chanting. Flynn, Flynn, Flynn. The second half began with the All-Stars receiving. Whatever had happened during halftime, the video, the arrest, the catharsis, seemed to have ignited something in the entire team. They played like demons. Brandon caught 2 more passes in the third quarter, including a spectacular diving catch that put them in scoring position. The All-Stars running back, Jimmy Charles, punched it in. 21-17, All-Stars. Northern District answered with a touchdown of their own. 24-21. Fourth quarter. 8 minutes left. The All-Stars drove down the field methodically. Wes Love threaded passes between defenders. The offensive line held. With 2 minutes remaining, they were on Northern District's 20-yard line. 3rd down and 6. Coach Lancaster called timeout. Jack watched as the coach drew up a play on his clipboard, pointing at Brandon, emphasizing something. Teams lined up. Wes Love took the snap, dropped back, pump faked left, then threw right. Brandon ran a corner route, his new cleats gripping the turf perfectly. The ball arced through the afternoon sun. Brandon jumped, extended, and pulled it in as he crossed into the end zone. Touchdown. The stadium went absolutely insane. Jack was jumping, screaming, hugging strangers. On the field, Brandon's entire team had piled on him in celebration. 28-24, All-Stars, with 1:47 remaining. Northern District got the ball back. They were desperate, talented, and they'd been champions for a reason. Their quarterback launched pass after pass, marching down the field. With 12 seconds left, they were on the All-Stars' 8-yard line. The defense huddled. Brandon was in the back, reading the offense, calling adjustments. The snap. Northern District's quarterback dropped back, looking for an open receiver in the end zone. Brandon read the play, saw the quarterback's eyes go to the left corner. He broke on the ball a split second before the throw, jumped, and intercepted it at the 2-yard line. Game over. The final whistle blew. The All-Stars had won the state youth championship. Pandemonium. The team mobbed Brandon at midfield. Coach Lancaster was crying. Parents flooded onto the field. Jack jumped the fence and ran to his son. Brandon saw him coming and broke away from his teammates. Father and son collided in a fierce hug, both crying, both laughing. You did it. Jack shouted over the noise. You're a champion. We did it, Dad. We did it together. The trophy presentation followed. Brandon accepted the championship MVP award, holding it high as his teammates chanted his name. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing. But Jack noticed something else happening. Parents were approaching him, shaking his hand, thanking him. Not for the game, for the video. A woman with tears in her eyes. My mother-in-law abuses my daughter. I've been too scared to speak up. After seeing what you did, I'm going to the police tomorrow. A man. That took courage. You probably saved more kids than just your own. An older gentleman. Son, you did the right thing. Evil flourishes when good men stay silent. Elena Middleton approached, her face puffy from crying. Jack, I'm so sorry. I should have done more to stop her. I should have protected Brandon. You helped when it mattered, Jack said. Your testimony in the video was crucial. What will happen to her? Gordon Solis, still hovering nearby, answered, given the charges and the public nature of the evidence, she'll likely face 3 to 5 years in prison, restitution for the stolen money, and a permanent restraining order. She'll never be allowed near Brandon again. Elena nodded slowly. She brought this on herself. I wish Nora had lived to see this. She would be so proud of you both. As the sun set over the stadium, Jack and Brandon sat together on the team bench, watching the crowd disperse. Brandon was still in his championship uniform, MVP trophy beside him. Dad, what happens now? Now. Jack put his arm around his son. Now we go home. We eat pizza. We celebrate. And we start living without fear. Will people at school be weird about the video? Some might. But Brandon, you showed everyone today that victims don't have to be silent. That abuse should be exposed. That fighting back is okay. You're going to be fine. Will you be okay? Exposing all that. It was your story too. Jack looked at his son, 13 years old, but somehow older now, tempered by fire, stronger for having survived. I'll be okay. I did what your mother would have wanted me to do. I protected you. That's all that matters. They sat in comfortable silence as the stadium lights flickered on, illuminating the championship banner still hanging above the field. Rich and Gordon joined them. Rich handed Jack a beer and Brandon a Gatorade. Gentlemen, Rich said, raising his beer, to justice, to family, and to one hell of a game. They clinked bottles as the sun disappeared behind the stadium. 6 months later, spring had transformed the landscape into vibrant green. Jack stood in his workshop, examining the latest prototype, shock-absorbing ankle braces for youth athletes. Flynn Performance gear had exploded after the championship game. The video had gone viral, not just locally but nationally. Media outlets covered it. Child advocacy groups reached out. Orders for equipment tripled. But more importantly, Jack had heard from dozens of families who'd found the courage to speak up about abuse after seeing Brandon's story. 3 other children had been removed from dangerous situations. Beatrice's arrest had triggered investigations into 2 other family members who'd been abusing their own grandchildren. The ripple effect was bigger than Jack had imagined. Beatrice herself was awaiting trial. Her bail had been set at $200,000, which no one, including Elena, would pay. She sat in county jail, facing 8 felony charges. Her attorney had tried to suppress the video, claiming Jack had violated her privacy. The judge had laughed him out of court. She committed crimes against a child and documented incidents. There's no privacy protection for criminal acts. Brandon had thrived. His anxiety had diminished dramatically. He slept through the night now. His grades improved. And colleges were already reaching out, at 13, to express interest in his athletic future. Jack's phone buzzed. Brandon's name appeared. Hey champ. Dad, Coach Lancaster just called. The regional select team wants me to try out next month. It's a huge deal. They only take 15 kids from the entire state. That's incredible. Are you ready for it? Yeah. Dad, I want to do it. And I want to do it in the gear you built. Is that okay? Jack smiled. I think we can arrange that. After hanging up, Jack walked to the window. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across his property. In the distance, he could see Brandon's soccer goal set up in the backyard, a basketball hoop, and the small training area they'd built together. This was what he'd fought for. Not revenge, though that had been satisfying. Not justice, though that had been necessary. He'd fought for this. A future where his son could thrive without fear, where talent could flourish without being undermined by cruelty, where a child could simply be a child. His phone buzzed again. Gordon Solis. Jack, I wanted to give you an update. Beatrice's attorney is pushing for a plea deal. The DA is offering 4 years in prison, restitution of all stolen funds plus interest, mandatory psychological evaluation and treatment, and a lifetime restraining order against you and Brandon. What does she want? She wants to go to trial. She's convinced she can win, that a jury will see the video as a vindictive attack. Jack laughed. Let her try? 12,000 witnesses saw that video. Hundreds recorded it. It's been viewed millions of times online. Any jury will have someone who's seen it. That's what the DA said. Trial is set for August. You and Brandon will need to testify. We'll be there. After the call, Jack locked up the workshop and drove home. Brandon was in the driveway, tossing a football with their neighbor's kid, Van Hale. When Brandon saw Jack's truck, he waved. "Dad, come throw with us." Jack parked and joined them. As the football spiraled through the warm spring air, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the deep satisfaction of knowing he'd done everything possible to protect what mattered most. That night, after dinner, Brandon was doing homework at the kitchen table when he suddenly looked up. "Dad, I've been thinking. About Grandma. Do you think she'll ever understand what she did wrong?" Jack sat down across from him. "Honestly, probably not. People like Beatrice don't see their own cruelty. They justify it, blame others, convince themselves they're the victim. That's sad. It is. But Brandon, that's not your responsibility to fix. You don't owe her forgiveness. You don't owe her reconciliation. Your only responsibility is to heal and move forward. Do you think Mom would be mad that we got Grandma arrested? Your mom spent years trying to protect you from her own mother's toxicity. She set boundaries, fought battles, endured so much stress trying to keep Beatrice from hurting you. No, she wouldn't be mad. She'd be relieved that it finally ended." Brandon nodded, processing. Then he smiled, a real, genuine smile that lit up his whole face. "I'm happy, Dad. For the first time in a long time, I'm really happy." Jack reached across the table and squeezed his son's hand. "That's all I ever wanted." August arrived with scorching heat. The trial of Beatrice's head had become a media sensation. The courtroom was packed daily with reporters, child advocates, and people who'd been moved by Brandon's story. Jack and Brandon testified on day 3. Brandon was nervous but strong, answering questions about specific incidents, describing how the abuse had made him feel, explaining the fear that had dominated his life. The defense attorney tried to paint Jack as a vindictive ex-son-in-law, but Gordon Solis destroyed that narrative with the documented evidence. Every incident had dates, times, witnesses, and often video footage. Beatrice took the stand on day 4. She was defiant, insisting she'd been trying to toughen up a weak grandson, that Jack had poisoned Brandon against her, that the video was edited and manipulated. The prosecution played the full, unedited footage. 3 hours of continuous documentation, time-stamped and verified by digital forensic experts. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. Beatrice was remanded to custody, her bail revoked. On sentencing day, the courtroom was even more packed. Victim impact statements were read, from Brandon, from Jack, from teachers, from Elena Middleton, who testified that her sister needed to face consequences, and from other families whose own abuse situations had been exposed after Brandon's story went public. The judge, a stern woman named Catherine Barry, looked at Beatrice with undisguised contempt. "Mrs. Head, in 23 years on this bench, I have rarely seen such calculated, sustained cruelty toward a child. You exploited your daughter's death to wage psychological warfare against a boy whose only crime was being your son-in-law's child. You stole from him, lied about him, destroyed his property, and attempted to destroy his spirit. Your actions didn't just harm Brandon Flynn. They violated the sacred trust between generations. You were supposed to be a source of wisdom and love. Instead, you chose to be an instrument of pain. I sentence you to 6 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will pay restitution of $47,000 plus interest and penalties, totaling $63,000. You are permanently prohibited from contact with Brandon Flynn, direct or indirect. You will undergo mandatory psychiatric evaluation and treatment. And Mrs. Head, if you violate any part of this order, I will personally ensure you serve the maximum sentence the law allows. Do you understand?" Beatrice, diminished in her orange jumpsuit, could only nod. As the bailiff led her away, she looked back at Jack and Brandon one last time. Jack met her eyes steadily, without malice or satisfaction, just finality. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Jack gave a brief statement. This case was never about revenge. It was about protection, accountability, and justice. My son deserves to grow up without fear. Every child deserves that. If our story helps even one family find the courage to escape abuse, then everything we went through was worth it. Brandon stood beside his father, no longer the scared child from the video, but a confident young man. I just want to say thank you to everyone who supported us, Brandon said into the microphones. And to any kid going through what I went through, it's not your fault. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be happy. And it's okay to ask for help. That night, Jack and Brandon went to Nora's grave, something they did every month. They brought fresh flowers and sat on the grass as the sun set. Mom, we did it, Brandon said softly. We finished what you started. Grandma can't hurt anyone anymore. Jack added, you would be so proud of him, Nora. He's brave, kind, strong. Everything you hoped he'd be. They sat in silence for a while, then Brandon said, Dad, what happens now? Is it really over? The legal part is over. The healing continues. But yes, Brandon, it's over. We can finally just be a family again. As they walked back to the truck, Brandon asked, Dad, if you could go back and do anything differently, would you? Jack thought about it. I would have acted sooner. But I also know that building the case, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment, it all mattered. If I'd confronted her earlier without proof, she might have painted me as the aggressor. Patience was frustrating, but it was necessary. So sometimes you have to wait for the right moment to fight back. Sometimes. But never wait so long that more damage is done. It's a balance. And Brandon, you'll face other bullies in life. Not all of them will be family members. The lesson here is that you don't have to accept abuse. You document, you prepare, and when the time is right, you act decisively. Like you did. Like we did. This was always a team effort. They drove home as the stars came out. The house was quiet, peaceful. Brandon headed upstairs to shower, and Jack sat on the porch with a beer, looking at the night sky. Rich called. Saw the news. 6 years. That judge didn't mess around. Justice served. You know, brother, what you did, it changed things. Not just for Brandon. I've gotten calls from 3 different companies wanting to partner with Flynn Performance Gear specifically because of your stance on child protection. You're becoming the face of athlete advocacy. I just wanted to protect my son. I know. But you did it in a way that helps protect a lot of sons and daughters. That matters, Jack. That really matters. After hanging up, Jack sat in the darkness, thinking about the journey. 3 years of documentation. 3 years of watching his son suffer while he built an airtight case. 3 years of patience and planning that had culminated in one perfect afternoon at a championship game. The revenge, if it could be called that, wasn't in Beatrice's arrest or conviction. It was in Brandon's freedom, in his smile, in his ability to play football without fear, to sleep without nightmares, to be 13 years old without the weight of adult cruelty crushing him. That was the real victory. Brandon appeared in the doorway, showered and in pajamas. Dad, I'm heading to bed. Early practice tomorrow. Sleep well, champ. Dad, yeah. Thanks for fighting for me. Thanks for not giving up. Brandon, I'll fight for you every single day of your life. That's what fathers do. Brandon smiled and headed upstairs. Jack heard his bedroom door close, then silence. Peace. Real, hard-won, well-deserved peace. Jack finished his beer and stood, stretching. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, a business to run, a son to raise, a life to live. But tonight, he allowed himself to simply enjoy this moment. The quiet victory of a father who'd protected his son, exposed a predator, and ensured justice prevailed. As he turned off the porch light and locked the door, Jack thought of Nora. She'd be proud, not just of him, but of Brandon, of the strength they'd shown, of the way they'd honored her memory by refusing to let her mother destroy what she'd loved most, her family. Rest easy, love, Jack whispered. We're okay now. We're finally okay. He climbed the stairs to bed, and for the first time in 3 years, Jack Flynn slept deeply and dreamlessly, without fear or vigilance. The battle was over. They had won. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.